our Artist Cafe. My name is Emma and I will be your MC. During the year we have studied about the lives and artwork of several famous artists. Today my classmates and I would like to share some of that information with you. Without further ado, on with the show. I would like to call on Kaya, Jamie and Bailey to speak about our first artist, Claude Monet.
In 1840, Claude Monet was born in Paris, France. He and a group of artist friends became known as the Impressionist painters. Monet often painted the same scene many times to show the change of light. Even on cold days, Monet kept on painting outdoors, with blankets, a hot water bottle, and wearing 3 overcoats. By the time Monet was 40 years old, his paintings started to sell. Today they sell for millions of dollars. They're worth it. When Monet's family moved into a big house in Japan, he had 6 gardeners. Had them plant lots of ices because they were his favorite flowers. By his 83rd birthday, Monet had finished 22 giant paintings of water lilies. Monet was 86 years old when he died. He had painted more than 2,000 paintings. 2,000?
Great job, my friends! Back in September, we used oil pastels to draw apples and pears as part of our still life drawings. Our next 2 presenters are Zane and Graham.
Paul Cézanne was born in the south of France 170 years ago. He kept painting for more than 40 years. Cézanne often arranged different objects to paint. These pictures are called still life. He especially liked to paint apples.
Cézanne worked so slowly that sometimes the apples were red raw before he had finished painting them. He once said, "I want to astonish Paris with an apple." He was 63 years old when he died. Apples certainly aren't just for eating. Thank you, Graham and Zane. Our Vincent van Gogh fans are Skylar, Max, and myself. Vincent van Gogh was born in Holland 156 years ago. At first he tried working in an art gallery and a bookstore. He even tried teaching and being a preacher. Most of Van Gogh's paintings were done during the last 10 years of his life. Sometimes Van Gogh was too angry or too sad to paint. When he felt good, he painted better than ever. Sometimes he painted so fast he forgot to mix his colors. He used the paint right out of the tube.
Vincent liked to paint at night. He would melt candles onto a straw hat and paint in the dark. Although Van Gogh painted 800 paintings, only one had sold during his lifetime, one called Red Vineyard. Now his paintings are loved by many, both adults and children.
I can see why we all chose Van Gogh. Next I will call on Lexi, Kyle, Dax, and Abby to share some interesting facts about Emily Carr.
Emily Carr was born in Victoria, BC, December 13, 1871. From an early age, Emily loved to draw. The native community in Equillet gave her the name Kleewick, which means laughing one. She painted many Indian villages, totem poles, and lush forests.
Emily often taught classes in a specific loved teaching children how to paint. She did this in Victoria and Vancouver. She was also a landlady of a boarding house in James Bay. Emily also made rugs and pottery to sell. One of our Cordova Bay families owned a piece of pottery made by Emily. She also raised sheepdogs, hens, and rabbits to sell. Emily had a pet monkey named Woo. Woo often wore dresses made by Emily.
When Emily was in her 60s, she bought a camping trailer and named it the Elephant. It was just enough room inside for her to sleep, store her art supplies, and house so many pets. Later in life, when her health began to fail, Emily started writing books about her childhood travels and art. She won a special award for some of her writing. She died at the age 74 in 1945. Emily Carr is one of my favorite artists. What an interesting life Emily Carr had. Thank you to our fourth group of presenters. Michael and Melanie, Emily and Brooklyn talk about their favorite artist, Pablo Picasso. 128 years ago, Pablo Picasso was born in Malaga, Spain. His father, who is an art teacher, encouraged him to draw and paint. Picasso spent most of his adult life in France. Picasso's painting style changed more over the period of his life than any other great artist. Cubism was a painting style that he developed and made famous. In his cubist paintings, the object looked like it has been broken up into little cubes. Many of his paintings look funny because the way he moved the eyes, noses, and chins around. Picasso was a great painter, but he was also great at other things too. He made sculptures, prints, drawings, beautifully colored dishes and bowls. He even made costumes and scenery for plays. Picasso lived to be 92 years old. He sure was a talented man. Thank you, girls. Our next two students must love flowers because they have chosen Georgia O'Keeffe as their artist. May I call on Liam and Marcus to share what they know about this very interesting painter, artist.
Georgia O'Keeffe was born in America in 1887 and grew up on a farm. When Georgia was only 12 years old, she knew she wanted to be an artist. She studied art in Chicago and New York. While she was living in New York, she began painting very large flowers.
Georgia O'Keeffe showed her drawings and paintings in her husband's famous gallery. Her paintings were selling for thousands of dollars. When her husband died, she moved to New Mexico with its big open spaces and dry desert beauty. Sometimes she would drive out into the desert and sketch. When it got too hot, she would crawl into her car, looking for a bit of shade and some cooler temperatures. She was 99 years old when she died in 1986.
It would be so much fun to paint such large flowers as Georgia had done. Our second Canadian artist is Maud Lewis. We really like her colorful paintings. Can Leah and Avery would like to tell you some things about this very interesting painter. Maud Dowie was born in Nova Scotia in 1903. She married Edward Lewis and they lived in a very small house by the highway. Maud Lewis had arthritis in her hands, but that did not stop her from painting, because that's what she loved doing more than anything else.
She would sit by the only window in the house and paint many colorful scenes from memory. Maud often painted Christmas cards for a nickel each. She spent a lot of time painting on things in her house, such as walls, wood stove, bread boxes, and the stairs that lead to the sleeping loft.
Many people stop by to buy paintings from this cheerful but very shy artist. So many people wanted her paintings that they often bought worse. They were barely finished and still wet. Sometimes Everett had to help her. When Maud was 67 years old, her health failed. She died in 1970. It certainly would be fun to paint beside Maud Lewis. Now we will travel back to France to introduce you to Henri Matisse. And I call on Desmond and Marius to do that.
Henri Matisse was a French artist. He was born in 1869. I forget. Wait. Right. Matisse loved to use bright colors and strong lines in his paintings. He even had his own art school for 4 years. One time his paintings were in a big exhibition with Pablo Picasso.
When Matisse became too ill to paint, he started cutting out colored pieces of paper to make his pictures with. He was working on a design for a church window when he died on November 3rd, 1954. He was 85 years old.
Thank you, boys. Our last artist was born in England. We are very lucky that Ted Harrison is living in Victoria now. Gavin and Maddox were very happy to have chosen Ted Harrison as their favorite artist.
I'm the favorite artist.
Today, Ted Harrison is one of Canada's most popular artists. He was born in England, yet he was taught in many different parts of the world. His colorful paintings of the land and people of the Yukon are popular with both young and old alike.
In 1993, Ted and his wife moved to Victoria to continue his painting and writing. He has written several children's books, such as O Canada and Northern Alphabet. He has also illustrated some adult books. We were very lucky to have met Ted Harrison in his Oak Bay Gallery back in the fall.
Well done, Maddox and Gavin. We hope that you have enjoyed our show. Now we are going back to the classroom to share our artist portfolio and some art books with you. Some refreshments will also be served. Thank you so much for being part of our audience today.
Now, moms and dads, grandparents, babies, younger siblings. I said to Mrs. Nellis, I said, you had the poetry cafe one year, but how did you end up not having 75 people? She said, I put a limit of 2 per family. I said, I never thought of that. So anyways, I'm so glad that you're here. Before you leave the gym, I'd like the parents, if they could help me stack the red chairs onto that stand over there, as well as move the benches to the side of the gyms.